with Ilhan RüsteM. Ilhan is a bit of a unique character. He's a bit of a scholar, he's an author, and he's Turkish. The strange thing is, he is uncovering some of the Ottoman Empire's deepest, darkest secrets, their crimes and mysteries. He just came out with a new book. It's being sent to the publishers now. His first book is amazing. His scholarship is incredible. He's just a very unique person to speak to on this subject because we don't really hear it often talked about, and it's kind of hidden from the mainstream. So, Ilhan, welcome back. It's good to have you.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, it's great to be here. Yeah, so I consider myself the first woken up white slave. White slavery is a taboo subject in the world. Nobody talks about white slavery. Since 100 years, since the Turkish Republic was established, white slavery has become a secret. So all
Hmm.
these white people in Muslim countries, they have no idea they come from white slaves. You have these white people, tens of millions of white people in North Africa, in Turkey, in West Asia, in the Middle East. These people, they don't know they come from white slaves. They believe they're Arabs, they believe they're Turks, Persians, Algerians, Tunisians, etc. I lost you. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can still hear you.
Yeah, I can see you now. Yeah.
I'm just working on the back end, but we're going ahead and just continue. I'm listening, and
Yeah, sure. So we have this taboo subject nobody talks about, and it's the most important part of history. White slavery is the most number one part of history. It's the most important part of history because when you don't look at white slavery, when you don't when you ignore white slavery, when you ignore the fact that barbarians, these are real barbarians, Arabs, Turks, Göktürks, Mongols, Persians, these people have enslaved people from a civilization. These people have enslaved people, white people, from a civilization. Do you know what happens when you keep white slavery a secret? Civilization, the people who have created the greatest civilization we have ever seen, the Western civilization, these people look like the most evil people in the world. White people, who are the greatest people, they have created the greatest civilization we have ever seen. They've created America, Europe,
mhm.
the British people. These people are the best people in the world. Yet, because white slavery is a secret, we believe that the white people are the monsters, racist, evil people. Yet the barbarians, Arabs, Turks, Persians, Göktürks, Muslims, Mongols, we believe these barbarians are actually innocent people. They didn't do anything. We think that barbarians, they spread without fighting, without conquering, without enslaving, without exploiting, without colonizing.
Mhm.
How come you think that the barbarian spreads just by talking and trading in peace? This is in which world we live in. We live in this world where people believe the civilized person spreads with war, but the barbarian spreads with peace by talking. Isn't that insane? We live in an upside down Alice in Wonderland world. This is a fake reality we live in. This
It's
is nonsense.
unbelievable. So
And
let's
yeah,
go into your first book, Rustem. Please tell us about it. How did you come across this? What led you down this path? I know we talked about this before, but we have a lot of new viewers now. What brought you to this subject? I mean, why go down this rabbit hole? Why was it important for you?
one of the important things how I realized it was my love language. My love language was when I see a woman or a man just that I respect, somebody I like and respect. What I would do is I would shrink down, I put the shoulders down, and I would just make myself as small as possible so that the other person can feel like a master, so that he can feel like a goddess, the most amazing woman or the most amazing strong man. This is one of the important things. There were a few other things which made me realize I come from white slaves, but this, my love language, that was one of the important reasons how I understood I come from slaves. That I would turn into a slave in front of a strong person, in front of a person I respect, a woman or a man. I would turn into a slave. I would act like a slave my soul would become something that is like tiny in front of a big giant person. And what does the other person see? The other person just sees a small person. Like, I wasn't like this. I couldn't talk like this before. I realized that I come from slaves. My love language was one of the first reasons how I understood this. There is something wrong here. I'm acting like a slave around people. This was one of the important reasons. And there are many other reasons, but this is one of the important ones, how I came across white slavery. And I never looked like a real Turk. That was another one of the reasons that I started to think about this, that I don't even look like a real Turk, because real Turks come from Asia. They teach us that we come from Central Asia, from the Altai Mountains. Altai Mountains are in Mongolia. Even though the Altai Mountains are in Mongolia, us white people in Turkey, in Muslim countries, it never crosses our minds that, wait a second, people in Mongolia, we don't look like Mongolians. I guess Joel is no longer on, but I'm still going. Okay. So yeah, that was one of the reasons that I started thinking about this, that we don't look like Mongolians. We don't look like Central Asian people. You know, when you continue to think about this, you realize that white people are only in Europe. So why are these people telling us that we come from Central Asia when there isn't white people there? There are white people now there, but then you understand they also come from white slaves. The people you see outside of Europe who are white people, they come from white slaves. They come from Europe. One way or the other, they come from Europe, either from some free white people, but mostly from white slaves. And this needs to be known. This needs to be known, because if you don't know white slavery, you start to think that the white person is the evil person, whereas the barbarians have done the same thing. The barbarians have also colonized and enslaved. They've also exploited. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that how I came across my white slavery heritage. I did a DNA test too. When I started thinking about this, I did a DNA test. It came out Italian, Greek, Bulgarian, Romanian, native Anatolian. And Turkish was like, I did 2 DNA tests. One of them said 3% Turkish. The other one said 7-8% Turkish.
Wow.
But the important part here is 65% or something European.
Amazing. So that Anatolian, that actually is Armenian.
Part of it, sure.
Yeah, because native Anatolian was inhabited almost all by Armenians before the Ottomans cleansed Anatolia of Armenian. So that's interesting. When I did my DNA test, it came up that I was also part of the Anatolia South Caucasus region. And I thought that was interesting because I've always kind of known myself to be Scottish, some French, some English, but it was quite shocking to see Armenian on there. But yeah, so it's amazing. So tell us a little bit more about this new book that you're working on. You've sent it to the publisher's office. I've been kind of browsing through it. It's quite fascinating. But tell our viewers what you have been experiencing writing this book and what the content of this book is.
So the first book I published was a little bit more personal, I think. It was more about white slavery, my personal experiences. But this time I digged down. I digged further down, and I understood that this is connected to civilization itself. After further research, after doing more videos on TikTok, writing on Facebook, I realized that there is a war going on here between civilization and barbarians, and we are on the barbarian side. Only after I'd written my first book, I realized, wait a second, I'm a barbarian. I didn't know that. Turks are barbarians. Muslims are barbarians. I didn't know I was a barbarian. I had no idea. So that's why I've written this book. With the current threats in Europe, in America, you have all these Muslims. They want more rights. And nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying anything to the Muslims, because the people in the West, they don't understand that they are barbarians.
Right.
We are barbarians, and we need to know this. I'm not saying that we are evil because of this. I'm saying this because we need to know this. We need to know that who is the civilized person. Because if you don't know who is the civilized person, you are going to continue to give more rights to barbarians, Muslims, who have enslaved white people for centuries. Tens of millions of white people in Muslim countries come from white slaves. That means there has been a war going on between barbarians and civilization. And Muslims have multiple times tried to end civilization.
Mm-hmm.
And please don't say that civilization didn't end yet, so it's fine. It's not fine, because barbarians, Muslims, they have already ended civilizations multiple times. All of the Middle East was Christian. North
That's
Africa was
correct.
Christian. These were civilizations. These were peaceful people. Muslims are not peaceful people. Just
Right.
because they're telling you that they're peaceful people, that doesn't make them peaceful people. They're lying.
So we're
Yeah,
looking at this kind of reframing, right? So you know the religion of Islam claims to be a religion of peace,
yeah,
and I mean, you've studied history, so that has proven not to be the case in pretty
nope,
much every example that we have. We
yep,
have what's been going on over the last 5 years that I'm deeply a part of, in helping this situation between Azerbaijan and Armenia. And people on the left and the right will say, well, this isn't Islamically motivated. But when you have the Muslims going on top of the churches as they're toppling the crosses and they're shouting Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, and you have their head caliphs in Azerbaijan and Baku condoning the killing of the Armenians of Nagorno-Karabakh, of Artsakh, because they have a religious exemption to do so. I don't see how you can frame it as simply just tribal or an ethnic war between two cultures.
no,
It looks as if they're saying, "Here's your fatwa. You have your license to kill." I mean, my children had friends in Armenia and Artsakh that were beheaded by these Azeri terrorists, and not just Azeris. They were hiring mercenaries from ISIS, from Yemen, to come and behead Armenians, to kill Armenians. And Ilham Aliyev was paying the Azerbaijanis and the terrorists that they were hiring $200 per Christian head they decapitated. So it's quite a serious issue. And I was there, of course, for the ethnic cleansing of Nagorno-Karabakh, where 120,000 indigenous Armenian Christians from Artsakh were forcibly removed from their land. And that happened in 2023, but there's no media publicity about it. So let's talk about, you know, your view on this, and then also Ataturk and his reframing of Ottoman history. Kind of explain that, break that down. And I'm going to be working on the back end while you do so.
sure, sure. This is a very important subject. The way the West looks at all this, they think they're just in fights. They think it's fair. It's not fair. This is a war between civilized Christians against barbaric Muslims. You need to understand that these are not equal cultures. One of them is barbarians. You can understand, you can see which side is the barbarian and which side is the civilization from this. Civilized people are democracies usually, and democracies, they talk about their history truthfully. There is freedom of speech in a democracy. In a civilization, there is freedom of speech. You talk about your history truthfully. You make movies about slavery for the whole world to see. That's democracy. That's civilization. You make movies about slavery. Do you think there are movies about slavery in the barbarian world? Do you think there is a single movie about slavery in a Muslim world? Civilization, barbarian. Civilization, democracy, freedom of speech. You know who you are. You talk without fear about who you are, about your history. Barbarians, they lie about their history. The barbarian, he can only survive by hiding his history. Barbarian wouldn't exist if he had become a democracy. The barbarian would cease to exist in 1 second if he had become a democracy, because democracy means you speak without fear about who you are, what your history is. If there was one single movie about Islam, people would enter that cinema and come out of the theater Christian. Muslims would enter that cinema one single movie about Islam, Muslims would enter that cinema, they would get out, and they would be Christians. Because they would see what Islam is. They would see that Muslims have enslaved Christians. That's why I'm a white person. That's why I have Italian, Greek, Bulgarian, Romanian DNA, Scandinavian DNA. I have a little bit Scandinavian DNA. I come from Scandinavian slaves as well. That's why I'm a white person in a Muslim country, because they have enslaved, they have ended civilizations. This is super important. And the reason why nobody's talking about the great threat of Muslims working day and night to end civilization, the reason why nobody's talking about this is Ataturk. Ataturk is a white, blonde, blue-eyed Turkish man, fake Turkish man. It's our leader. He has established the Turkish Republic in 1923, and he has kept white slavery a secret. What happens when you keep white slavery a secret? All these Muslims who have enslaved us white people, they suddenly look like innocent people who just spread around without enslaving, without colonizing, without exploiting. They just talk to you. They just say, do you want to be a Muslim, sir? Yes, I would love to be a Muslim. I would love to be a Muslim. Would you like to be a Turkish person now? Italian person? I would love to be Leonardo da Vinci. Hey, Leonardo da Vinci, do you want to be a Turkish person? Yes, I would love to be a Turkish person. That's the current, it's funny, but that's the current reality we live in. We live in this reality that the whole world believes Muslims spread around without the sword. They just walk around and talk, and suddenly half of Africa speaks Arabic. How do you think that happened? When Ataturk, our leader Ataturk, the greatest descendant of a white slave, the blonde Ataturk who established the Turkish Republic 100 years ago, when he kept white slavery a secret, he created a world where nobody else colonizes but only white people, the best people of history. Only they colonize, only they exploit, only they enslave. Okay, when you do this, do you know what happens? This is very important. When you do this, the world believes all cultures are equal. Barbarians, civilized people are equal. They are not equal, but this is the reality we live in. They are equal. So when you believe that all cultures in the world are equal, barbaric fucking Muslims are equal, then the good people in the West, these beautiful people who are innocent, they are innocently waiting for the barbaric fucking savage Muslims to become civilized. The whole world for 100 years, since white slavery is a secret, only for 100 years white slavery is a secret. Before that, people knew that. Only since 100 years white slavery is a secret. Since 100 years, good people in the West, leaders, they are waiting for these savage fucking barbaric Muslims, my Turkish Muslim leaders, they're all fucked up idiots. All these beautiful people in the West are waiting for these savage fuckers to become equal like the West. So you are currently waiting for the idiot Turks to become civilized. It will never happen. The greatest lie you've been told is that barbaric people by themselves can achieve civilization one day. It will never happen. Islam will never achieve civilization because it's a paradox. As soon as Islam becomes a democracy, as soon as Islam becomes a civilization, it disappears. Because civilization means talking without being afraid. When you talk without being afraid in Turkey, you're going to say, I come from Christian slaves. I come from Italian slaves. I don't want to be a Turkish person. Turks, Muslims disappear in the air. So it's a paradox. Islam cannot survive. The barbarian cannot survive in a democracy, in a civilization.
So you're saying that what you have to say about this subject of the white Janissary slaves, how the Ottomans, they took these Europeans, held them as captives, raped them, forced them into Islam. You can't talk about this in Turkey?
No way.
What would happen to you?
You asked a good question. Look, what you see from the eyes, did you go to Turkey?
Yeah, I've been there like 9 times.
You see, you've seen Turkish people from the outside. It looks peaceful, right? It looks like normal people talking to each other.
Looks like a normal country.
Totally normal country. What outsider don't see, what the outsider doesn't see is that we are slaves. You are white slaves in a Muslim world. We are terrified to speak. Like, it wouldn't even cross our minds to speak. I come from Janissaries, white slave soldiers. I come from Christian slave soldiers. Nobody speaks about it. I've been talking about this for 3 years. I'm talking to my relatives. What they do is they look away, look down, they freeze. They have a trauma, and they can't even think about it. Like, this is a white person looking in the mirror and he sees a darker person. Like, we literally see darker people in the mirror. We think we are like darkish people, the people who have enslaved us. That's what we're seeing in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
You need to understand, this is very important again, when the barbarian enslaves the civilized Italian, when the barbarian enslaves the civilized person, the civilized person in a barbaric world, he can't get out, he can't talk. It's a different world. When the white person, when the civilized person enslaves the African gets out there, makes hip-hop songs, fuck the policeman, fuck the white man. It's a free world. You live in a democracy, you live in a civilization. In a civilization, the black slave, when he becomes free, he can talk. Talk. His mind is free. Your mind is not enslaved.
Mm-hmm.
You have only enslaved the bodies of Africans. You have only enslaved the bodies. You didn't enslave the minds. That means when your black slaves become free in America, their minds are also free. Their bodies and their minds are free. Our minds are not free. Our bodies were enslaved, plus our minds were enslaved. That means when our bodies became free now in 1923, when our bodies became free, our minds stayed Muslim slaves to the Muslims. This is a mind slavery. The barbarian enslaves your mind. You're not able to think. You're terrified to think. You have no idea. When I talk about white slavery since 3 years, people tell me to go see a psychiatrist. This is how they speak to you. They call you crazy. I'm the only one. I'm the only white slave who is speaking openly on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm the only descendant of white slaves speaking openly, and they're telling me I'm crazy. Like, this is how they speak to you. They keep you a slave by laughing at you. They laugh at you. They tell you need to go to the hospital. You're an idiot. You're crazy. That's what they tell me. This is how the barbarian speaks to the white slave. That's how he steps on his head. He tells you, he laughs at you, man. He says one word and you stay a slave. He laughs at you, you stop thinking, you freeze. It's like a comic book movie. It's like he's breathing on you and he freezes you with his breath. He just laughs at you and you freeze. You stop thinking, you can't talk. You don't see that from the outside. You've been to Turkey 9 times. You don't see that. Outsiders don't see that we are slaves to Islam, to real Turks like this, planted-eyed Turks.
Okay, so explain that for a second. Okay, so real Turks. So most people in the West, in America, we have this view for some reason that the Turks have always just been in Turkey and that they've always been in Constantinople, but that's not true. I mean, when you think about it, you have Saint Constantine the Great, for whom Constantinople was named after, right? And you have all of these Greeks there, and you have Italians there, and you have Armenians there. But now, if you go to Constantinople today, which I've been to Istanbul several times, but I still prefer to call it Constantinople. If you go to Istanbul today, it's almost all entirely Turkish people. And I'm saying, where are the Greeks? Where are the Italians? Where are the Armenians that were here and the majority population of Constantinople? Because at some point, they must have been invaded, right? Could you speak about that? When did the Turks come into Turkey? And what kind of people group are they? Are they Asian?
They're Mongols.
They're Mongols. Okay. So explain that to us.
So I think at some point in time, they changed their name from Turks to Mongols. So nobody knows that they are the greatest evil in the world, because we are talking about the greatest evil in the world: Gökturks, Mongols, Turks. Number 2, Arabs, the Muslims. But the number 1 is Gökturks, because they've been ruling all over Asia. If you look at a map, Genghis Khan is a Gökturk. That's a Gökturk, Mongol, Gökturk. It's the same thing. He's a Turkish person. We speak the same language as Mongols, but it's changed over time. Just like Latin has changed over time to different languages. The old Göktürk language has changed to today's Mongol, plus today's language in Turkey. So real Turks, they're Asians. I mean, this is Asia. We're speaking of Central Asia. They originated right at the border from China, Kazakhstan, Mongolia, at these Altai Mountains. So these are I mean, you can't distinguish them from Chinese people almost. I mean, they between themselves they can distinguish everybody, of course, but for us it's like they're all slant-eyed people.
Right.
They have red faces, cut eyes, Mongols. They are the real Turks. They are the Gökturks. They did all this. They enslaved white people for centuries. They came and went to Europe every now and then.
Right.
They fought with the Romans. They fought with the Greeks. They fought with everybody in Europe. So they are the real Turks. And what we believe in the Turkish Republic today is we openly say that, yes, we come from Mongolia. We openly say that. Us white people have originated from Mongolia. This is what it's been taught in Turkish history classes on TV. This is what we believe in, that we have been a nomad people, and we just walked around and stopped in Turkey, in Anatolia, West Minor, Asia Minor, and we started living there. This is what they teach us, that we just walked around. We are nomads. It was an empty place, and we just happened to came here and made a home for ourselves. No history, no colonization, no exploiting, no wars. We just came and said, this is our place now. That's what they teach us. And the Greek people you spoke of, the Italians you spoke of, that's what killing people, banishing people is. It's a genocide. They killed 700,000 Greek people, not just Armenians. I mean, almost 1.5 million Armenians, banished them, killed them. 700,000 Greek people from West Turkey. They banished them, killed them.
No one talks about that. They don't talk about the Assyrians either.
Nope. 200,000 something Assyrians as well. Christians. This is about religion. They didn't want Christians. They wanted to have a Turkey just with the same kind of people. What are the same kind of people? Muslims, Turkish-speaking Muslims. Kurds were lucky because they're Muslims. That's why they didn't commit genocide on the Kurds, and also there were too many of them. That's why I think they didn't do anything against the Kurds. Yeah.
Wow. This is unbelievable. So,
bro, I'm the first one telling all this. So you're the first guy I'm telling all this.
So you grew up believing your whole entire life, I'm Turkish, but then when you found out what Turkish is, did you have an identity crisis of some sort?
Bro, good question again. You feel lost a little bit. It's two feelings at the same time. Yes, one negative feeling of like, what the fuck am I then? But at the same time, you are so joyful, so happy that I got the answers finally. Man, I understand everything now. It makes sense. Because when they speak about we come from Central Asia, you are without ancestors. You can't connect to anything. Like, I don't understand that when you tell me I come from Mongolia. Like they try to tell you, like, over time you drank milk, and when you drink milk, you become white. That's what they teach us in middle school. You drink white, and your children over time, second, third generation becomes white. That's what they teach us. You drink milk, eat cheese, yogurt, it's white, so you become white. I swear to God, that's what they teach us in middle school. I didn't really believe it, but it's in your back of your head. It's like, okay, I guess we changed over time. I don't know. Okay. But then you understand, wait a second, Janissaries, white slave soldiers, Christian slave soldiers. You finally understand, like you can finally make a connection with your ancestors. Like, then you understand who you are. So it's not an identity.
If you go to Eastern Turkey today, try not to interrupt you, Ilhan, but if you go to Eastern Turkey today, which was formerly Western Armenia, you will see people there that still speak some Armenian words. Okay. It's unbelievable when you go there and they look Armenian, you know. And I met this one Turkish guy, and he said the Armenians are the stupidest people in the world. They're foolish. They're going on and on about this genocide, but it never happened. And they're genocide deniers in Turkey. They deny that they committed any genocide because you have Ataturk's revision of the history and those who followed after him, where they revised it or they tried to downplay what happened so that they're not guilty. No, we never did. And they gaslight their entire society into believing these things. So this guy, he said, no, I don't believe in the genocide. I don't believe that it happened. Sure, there was a war going on between the Armenians and the Turkish people because the Armenians wanted to overthrow the Turkish government, etc. So they believe these false narratives that just aren't true. But I told him, I said, you know what? This is going to really piss you off, but I bet you are Armenian.
You
And
should do a
he's
DNA test.
and he said, "No, I'm not Armenian." I said, "Okay, let's go." So we went to England. We were in London. He did a DNA test, and
No
he was
way.
65% Armenian.
Get out of
He had
here.
it on both sides,
Get out of here.
on both his maternal and paternal. And there's several different YouTube videos as well of people that are Turkish finding out what their ancestry
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
finding
I've
out
seen them.
they're
I've seen them.
Armenian or Bulgarian or Italian or
Greek and
Greek
stuff.
or
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of Greek.
That's
So
that's what it is. Yeah.
yeah, so it was very interesting, but it kind of opened my eyes to realizing the entire scale that I don't think Turkey has come to grips with. But at the end of the day, so you've done all this research, you've done all this, you know, investigation of this rewriting of history, of what truly happened to the white Christians, the civilized people under the Ottoman powers. At the end of the day, you knowing what you are ethnically, you knowing this history, how does it change your life? Does it have an effect on your life? Why does it matter at the end of the day? Why should we care about your story and about the story of the the Janissary slaves, not just the Janissary slaves, but the Christian women and children that were brought into these Turkic families to help change the gene pool? Why should we care about this at all?
You need to care about this so you understand which is the good side and the bad side. You need to understand the West, democracy, freedom is the good side. Muslims 100% are the evil side. I don't care if Muslim people themselves are good people. Of course, 99% of Muslim good, great people. I'm talking about culture, ideas, and these ideas, this culture drives people. So when you support Hamas, when you support just the most despicable, evil Muslim leaders who are doing these most heinous crimes, when you support
Erdogan.
them, yeah, when you support these people, you're hurting your own civilization. You don't understand that you are fighting your own civilization. You need to understand white slavery. You need to understand our real identity as white descendants of white slaves, so you can understand that there was evil in the world. The current world does not know true evil. You don't know what true evil is. When you
Hmm.
don't know what true evil is, you believe that the white man is the most evil person in history. We live in an upside down world. We believe that the best people in history who have created this greatest civilization we have ever seen are the worst racist white monster colonizers, that they commit the greatest crimes in history. The greatest crimes in history were committed by Muslims. They have ended civilizations, Christian civilizations in the Middle East, in North Africa. They have ended the Christian, Italian, Roman Empire. Ended it, finished, done. No more Christian Empire. And then we became a Turkish Muslim Empire.
Hmm.
Here is again important. What happens, the game we are playing since 100 years, this crazy experiment, this is an insane experiment we're doing. The crazy experiment we're doing in Turkey, and the whole world is joining on in this. This crazy experiment is that us white people, I'm going to say we are civilized people because we come from Europe, okay? We are civilized people brought in a barbaric Turkish Muslim world.
Hmm.
We are white people in a barbaric Turkish Eastern Muslim world. And then you tell these good people in a barbaric world, you were the best people in history. That's what they tell us in Turkey. You Muslims now, you Muslims were the best people in history. So this game we are playing, the whole world joining in on us, this insane experiment we're doing is, what happens when you put the white man in a barbaric world and tell him, you as the barbarian in history were the best person. So you're not a barbarian person. You're also a civilized person in this barbaric world. You understand what I'm saying? So you are not a European. You're an Eastern person. You're a Turkish person. You're a Mongolian. I'm a Mongolian. And you Mongol, you are the best person in history. That's what they're telling me. Oh, I'm a Mongol now, and I was the best person in history. And the white man was evil. He colonized. He enslaved. We are clean. We didn't enslave. Us Mongols were always the best exemplary people in history. Do you understand the crazy experiment? This is an experiment. White people put in a barbaric Mongol world, and they're telling us white people that we Mongols were the best people in history. That's what they teach us in schools and TV every day,
Yeah.
on. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? This is an insane experiment. You can't put the good white person from a civilized place, just end his civilization, end the Roman Empire, put him in a Turkish Ottoman Muslim empire, and then tell him in this barbaric world that this barbaric world is not barbaric at all. Islam is great, beautiful. So you should just stay in this barbaric hell. There is no moving forward into a civilized place when you stay in this quicksand of barbaric Islam world. This is an insane experiment. We need to end it. We need to make white slavery known. When we make white slavery known, we're going to see that Islam wasn't innocent at all. Mongols wasn't innocent at all. They enslaved us. That means we need to get out of this Islamic hell. We need to get out of the barbaric world. We can't stay in the barbaric world and tell our people, you were just the best people in history and the white people were evil. No, we were good white people. We're dragged to the dark side and we need to go back to the light side. That's as simple as that. It's the dark side and the light side. That's as simple as that. Civilization versus barbarians. We cannot stay in the barbaric world and just keep telling the Muslims, guys, you are so innocent. You're beautiful, peaceful people. When you keep doing this, Europe is gonna fucking end.
Yeah.
It's ending right now. Like, don't be fooled that it didn't end. It's already weakened. That's the important part you need to understand. You have already weakened Europe by telling for 100 years that the white man was the most evil person. You have weakened Americans. It could have been even greater civilization. It could have been even stronger if we had supported you. You know, if we had the support of the Muslims, if you had our support, Europe would have been even greater, even more beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So we are responsible with the stupid Ataturk experiment by staying in Islam. We are hurting. We are hurting you. We are hurting civilization. It's insane. Kids go to school with a British are the best people in history. They gave civilization to the whole world, the British. So you wear a British dress and you can't go to school. Like, what kind of a fucked up world we live in? This is insane. You're
It's
hurting
terrible.
this little child. She's 12 years old. That
Yeah,
you're
they're not
traumatizing.
allowed to be. They're not allowed to be patriotic anymore at all.
Bro, they
You
see
know.
it as racist. It's insane.
Well,
You were the best people of history.
well, it started out in World War II, and in World War II, after I'll tell you from a very, very close to home experience. My great uncle on my wife's side by marriage, he was the liberator of Dachau concentration camp.
Oh, wow.
Um, very amazing hero, strong military background, but he comes from a German speaking community in America. He grew up in east of Galena, Illinois, in a town called Chapville in that area. And this man, Colonel Winters was his name. He grew up speaking German, as did everybody else in his town. They all spoke German. Everybody in the region spoke German. Actually, German was almost the national language of the United States, but it was voted down by one vote, and they decided English instead because they were trying to
What?
separate. So there was a battle on this subject because we were seceding from the crown. We wanted nothing to do with English anymore. And Benjamin Franklin said, well, German's an amazing language. Why don't we all speak German? So they took a
Never heard
vote
that.
on it, and they lost they lost by one vote.
You're
Otherwise,
kidding me.
we would all be speaking German
I've
today.
never heard of that.
So during World War II, you have Colonel Winters, my wife's great uncle, who goes to liberate Dachau concentration camp. And when he found out what the Germans were capable of doing at Auschwitz, at Dachau, at all these other concentration camps, he couldn't believe it. For him, it was a shock to see those horrible things. And he had the villagers around Dachau come and look at the crimes that were committed and bury the bodies, etc. But it was very traumatizing for him. He said he remembers going home with his head hanging low, feeling that he can never be proud of his heritage ever again.
Oh, come on.
So before they were celebrating their heritage, they were very proud about being German. But after World War II in America, we stopped teaching German in school.
Mm.
Before, it was the second language that
Mm.
almost everybody learned. It was either German or French. And so all of that stopped. And so what ended up happening, we were the victors. We won the war, right? But for some reason, this hatred of all things German then became the hatred of all things Western, all things American, all things English, all things French. So you can't be patriotic anymore. It's not okay for you to be patriotic if you are white, if you are Christian. So this is the problem, and that is why Americans voted in Donald Trump, and now we have the Faith Office and the White House. We're supporting Christians. We're fighting anti-Christian bias. We're doing a lot in Washington to really support Christians to be proud of our American heritage and to make America great again. We had the military march for the 250th anniversary of the Army, United States Army.
Next
That's
year, yeah,
huge.
sure.
So we just celebrated that. We have a lot of things that are happening now with the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. Uh, we're seeing a lot of patriotism again, pride in our culture, pride in our ethnicity, pride in our heritage, pride in our faith, and we're tired of these left lunatics, these Muslims, these Africans, these Hispanics. Everybody else gets to be proud of their culture, of their identity,
Yeah,
and tell us we cannot be proud of ours.
yeah,
For being white, for being Christian, for actually creating Western civilization. So it's a huge
absolutely.
problem. I want to speak just briefly on this subject because it is important. Right now, you have this peace deal, which is about to pass through between Azerbaijan and Armenia. Turkey's involved. The United States State Department, Marco Rubio, has been involved on some levels, and they actually made a suggestion. So basically, Azerbaijan wants to connect Turkey to itself. They need this corridor called the Zangezur corridor. I don't know if you follow any of this political stuff.
I think I missed that one.
Okay. So the Zangezur corridor is a route that goes through Armenia to connect Azerbaijan and Turkey. So
Okay.
they want this land. And the Armenian government says, no, we're not going to give you this land, but we're open to opening up a border where you guys can have transport. It's going to make transportation easier for them and so forth. But it's also good for China. It's good for some other major powers that we're not too thrilled about. Um, so you have this happening. The United States proposed something and said, why don't you lease this corridor to us for 100 years? And we'll see that the Azeris don't attack, the Turks don't attack, and you guys are protected. And the head of Armenia, the prime minister, has said no to that, which I think was a big mistake. In my personal observation, I believe in the right to self-determination, to sovereignty, to these democratic values. But Armenia doesn't have a prayer. It lies between Azerbaijan, Turkey, and it's got Iran bordering it as well. I mean, so you have all these crazy Islamic nations that surround this one little tiny Christian country. And I think without US intervention and support, it's going to break apart and cease to exist as a nation, as a republic today. So the questions that I have for you is, given Armenia's history with the Turks and Azerbaijanis, should they be signing a peace deal with them, especially when it doesn't look good? When should they be capitulating to Erdogan, to Aliyev? Should they trust them?
The Azerbaijan is the Turkish government. Bro, I don't know. The first thing which needs to be corrected is correcting history. Everything you build up on a fucked up ground, it's not gonna hold.
Hmm.
Like we're trying to survive on a shitty ground right now in Turkey. So whatever you try to build on it,
Hmm.
I don't know, it might work for a couple of years. I don't know. It's not gonna hold. Like Turkey
Yeah.
needs to end. You can't have Christian slaves. All of Turkey comes from Christian slaves, and then we fight with Christian Armenians.
Hmm.
Like you can't build on top of that anything like new dealings, new agreements. Like I can't see anything that will hold properly without you fixing the ground problem first. And the ground problem is there is no Turks in the Turkish Republic because we committed genocide on them. I think I forgot to mention that.
The
We committed
Armenians. There's no Armenians in the Turkish Republic because the Turks committed genocide on them.
that too,
Hmm.
but we didn't stop there. Like the first World War times, they were genocide times in Turkey.
Hmm.
Kill the Christians. Who else did we kill, you think? We killed our enslavers. We killed the real Turks with the slanted eyes. That's why you don't see almost no real Turks, because we committed genocide on our enslavers, the barbarians. So we
Mm.
killed the barbarians, and then we took on their identity. Then we called ourselves the real original Turks.
Okay, I've never heard that before. So what's the evidence for that?
Because the real Turks are slanted-eyed people, and you don't see them anymore. Where are they? When Hitler did his genocide, you know what he said? He said, it's fine, nobody's gonna notice anything. Like, who even talks about the Armenian genocide today? That's what he said. Who even talks about the Armenian genocide today? Nobody talks about it.
Mm.
We started burning books first, then the Germans just copied us. We started genociding first, then the Germans copied us. Like Ataturk, this handsome, blonde, blue-eyed guy, he was like, I heard he was like a hero for Ataturk, like, because we did it first. You know, the white people, we killed our enslavers, we killed Christians, we made this our land. We erased everybody who was not like us, not just the Christians, but also our enslavers. That's why you don't see real slanted-eyed Turks in Turkey. We took on their identity. Now we are playing this insane game, this stupid experiment where we act like we are original Muslim Turks, even though we are Christian slaves and white slaves. We act like we are real Turks, and then we go on a fight with Armenians. Then we go fight with Christians. Then we go support Hamas. So when you ask me this question, like, would this deal work? For me, nothing will work when you play this insane experiment where you act like you're an original Turk and then you go support Hamas leaders. What will happen when you look at your history? What will happen when you look at the white slavery? Just make one movie about white slavery in Islam. After that movie, everybody will turn Christian. When you see with your eyes what Islam did to us, what real Turks who ruled all over Asia, these are Turks, and you don't see them anymore in Turkey because we killed them. These real Turks, these Mongols, what they did to white people. If you see that in one movie, Turkishness is going to end. Islam is going to disappear. We're going to become Christians again. Then we're going to support Armenia. Then you can talk about doing dealings and talking in peace. Then you can talk about talking with each other with Armenians. That's how you solve that problem.
Yeah.
That's the only way for me to solve that problem. I don't see any other way.
Ilhan, in a world full of lies, speaking the truth becomes a revolutionary
I'm the only
act.
one. I'm the
Yeah.
only one. I'm the first one. First white slave was woken up. First one.
Well,
It's true.
Well, I think there needs to be a cultural revolution and awakening. There needs to be a great awakening in Turkey. There needs to be a shift. And what you're doing is really phenomenal. I commend you for all of your hard work, your research, the books that you've published. And, I have one other thing to say. It's, the images or the paintings, the pictures of Turks compared to the Turks that we have today. You're right, they do look very Asian. They look more Uzbeki or something like that. They don't Mongolian. They don't look like the Turks that we see today, which have more of a white appearance. So that is interesting how you pointed that out. And the Azerbaijani people, I think, are probably a lot closer as a tribe, as a group, to the original Turks that invaded Constantinople. They do have more of that Asian appearance than Turks in Turkey.
Yeah. If they have slanted eyes, you can see it from the slanted eyes. It's not, we don't have like a billion races in the world. We just have like
Hmm.
4 colors. We just have 4 colors. Is he yellow? Is he brown? Is he white? Is he black? That's it. You have
Hmm.
different shades of brown. Okay. You have tons of different
Hmm.
shades of brown, but it's just 4 colors. It's simple.
Hmm.
So if you're not slanted eyed, yellow skinned, you're probably the slave of the Turks. Like these people
Mm.
ruled all over Asia. So we are all partly slave of these real Turks.
Well, unless you understand the wartime advancements that the Ottoman Empire made, not just into the Middle East, but into Europe, the countries that they were fighting and the slaves that they were taking captive to fight against. I love, there's this story about the Armenians that were part of the Turkish military, and they were forced to serve in the Ottoman Empire. And they were Christians. They were allowed to continue to practice their faith, pay the jizya, but they had to fight for the Ottoman Empire, so they were forced to fight. And they went into Serbia. And when they saw the Serbian army and they saw the Serbian banners with the cross and they saw the crosses, at the front of the army, the general, the Armenian general said, "Wait, these guys are Christians." And he said, "No, no, no, let's go over and talk to these guys." And so he sends out this guy, and the guy goes over and speaks to the messenger of the king, and they said, "Okay, we want to meet on the battlefield." So he says, "I'm a Christian too. I believe Jesus is Lord. I believe they died on the cross. We're not Muslim." And then he's like, "Really?" And he said, "But you guys are Ottomans." He's like,
Mm,
"Yeah, but we're still Christians."
mm.
And then the Serbians were like, "Well, just come on, join our ranks. We'll protect you. We
No
can
way.
fight together." And this is a famous battle in Serbia. Everybody talks about it. So the Armenian army with the general comes over and
Oh
he
my
calls
God.
all of his guys over to the Serbian side, and they destroy that Ottoman
I
army.
never heard of that story. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, it's
That's the right move.
and I'm
That's
I'm
how you
thinking
give responsibility.
today, like the work that I'm doing, we're supporting Christians that have suffered. The family members have been killed through martyrdom throughout the Middle East and Armenia. And I consider myself a modern crusader. A lot of the guys that I take with me on these trips and that I work with in these countries are from paramilitary backgrounds or military backgrounds. And basically, what we train them to do is to be able to go into these areas, to do these tactical, amazing missions, to support Christians, to help them, to bring them food, nourishment, all kinds, whatever they need. We're going to go and meet that need. But should any Islamic terrorist, I mean, in Somalia, you're dealing with, Al Shabaab, you're dealing with Boko Haram, you're dealing with the Muslim Brotherhood, you're dealing with Hezbollah, you're dealing with Hamas, you're dealing with all these different Islamic radicalized groups all throughout the Middle East and North Africa and East Africa. What I tell my men is when you go into these places, should you get kidnapped and pulled into a van, that should be in the minds of those people who do that to you, it should be their greatest and last mistake that they make. Meaning that you should be so equipped that if five guys pull you in a van, you're so trained and skilled in hand to hand combat, you can just kick their backsides, take them out, and call it a day.
You should. Before it's too late, you need to
Uh,
train. If you want to go to that land, you need to be prepared. Sure, that these are dangerous barbarians.
and
These
I
are not
say,
civilized people. These are barbaric, evil people.
it's true. I tell people all the time in my missions, and I say, listen, your objective is to be the most powerful man in any room. And the man who is the most powerful in any room is a man that is completely prepared to die, but totally determined to live. When you're
Mhm.
at peace with your maker, you have no fear. Because death is like the biggest fear for most human beings. If you can overcome your fear of death, nothing stands in your way whatsoever. Not hell, not high water, not land. Nothing stands in your way from accomplishing the mission. Nothing. Because you're not afraid to die. I know if I die right now, my faith is in Jesus Christ. I know exactly where I'm going. And so this is why jihadism is so strong. This is what they have going for them, is because these people believe that if they go and commit terroristic acts, they're going to Jannah, they're going to heaven, they're going to be with 72 virgins, and those virgins will just become virgins again after they defile them. And so, for them, they're
Yeah,
like, yeah, send me to paradise. I don't care if I die. And most of them are living miserable lives.
yeah.
Um, the thing is, I live the greatest life of any 28-year-old person I know. I get to hang out with world leaders. I'm a friend of President Trump's, and many people in the
Oh,
government. And I'm going to beautiful galas and dinners and parties, but I'm also
I've seen
seeing
the pictures. I know.
the worst of human suffering as well. I'm in the gutter. I'm in the swamps. I'm in the horrible, most terrible places that you could ever imagine trying to help these people. And one thing that I've realized is even though I live a fuller and more exciting life than most people my age that are just working a 9 to 5 job, living the mundane, this life means nothing to me. Nothing. Because Paul writes in the epistles that heaven, it's beyond whatever we could ever think. It's so much better than anything in this life. And so he says, I count it all joy when I suffer various trials and tribulations for Christ's sake. And so he says, nothing will compare with the glory that is to come. And so I had that deep in my soul, deep in my heart. I'm not afraid. I was held captive by the Muslim Brotherhood in 2021,
No
spreading the
way.
gospel. Yep, by the same people who beheaded those Coptic Christians in Libya, the
Are you
21
kidding?
martyrs. Yeah, we
How
went
long?
to
How long?
support just one day. That's it.
It's still
It's a
something.
it's a miracle story. But anyway, I'm happy
Oh
I
my
didn't have to
God.
use any violence on those people. But you should be prepared to. So you shouldn't be a willing martyr. That's what I say. Because I believe if you're a true Christian, we have a mandate from Christ, and that mandate is go into all the world and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, right? And then Jesus Christ will return. So we have this mandate that is on the shoulders of all Christians to preach the gospel, to see people converted. Because anybody, we have ISIS terrorists that convert. We have people in Iraq who are part of
Really?
jihadist
Wow.
militants that convert. When Jesus Christ renews your mind, he puts a new mind within you, a new heart within you, and it supersedes all race, all ethnicities, all nationalities. You can be transformed by the gospel. This is one of the reasons why Muhammad's cousin, his first cousin, left Islam and converted to Christianity because the power of the Holy Spirit. And they hate that. They hate that, but they can't do away with it. They call him, what do they call him? An infidel and somebody who is an apostate from Islam. But he started out as a Muslim and then he left Islam and became a Christian and became a great defender of Christianity and speaking to other Muslims to leave Islam and that his cousin was deceived. And so it, when God delivers you from that brainwashing, when God delivers you from that radicalized torment, and brings a new heart within you, a new spirit, a new mind, he makes you effectively a new person. And it doesn't matter what your heritage is, your ethnicity, your race. You can all become a part of the family of God because it's God's supernatural power that transforms people. Yes, you're
Absolutely.
broken. Maybe your race is broken. And I think there are ethnicities which are systemically evil, evil ethnicities. I believe that. And but I believe, like the Turks, for example, because generation to generation to generation, let me explain why. The Bible says that our sins pass down onto the 10th generation. So the sins that we commit in our life, our sons are going to commit, our grandsons are going to commit. And I can say this, in my family, we had so many children born out of wedlock, from my grandma to my mom to my oldest brother to most of my siblings having children outside of wedlock, where you see the sin passing down from generation to generation to generation. And it's crazy. And you see this also. I mean, there was a study done about a guy in America who was he was a gambler, he was an alcoholic, he was a pimp, he was all these horrible things, and he fostered, I think, 11 children, 14 children with 14 different women, prostitutes, all these kind of things. And they did a study on this man and all of his, uh, you know, children, which children, children's children, which came after him, and you had like 200 murderers, like 12 serial killers, like all these horrible people that came out of him, out of this progeny, because the sins were begetting, coming
Mm.
down, coming down. And then you take a preacher like Jonathan Edwards, you have one vice president, like 68 members of Congress, which came out of his progeny. You have senators, you have scientists, you have 100 preachers. So literally, how you live your life, how you position your soul, right?
Mhm.
Your
Yep.
spirituality, it's going to affect all of your children. So this
Absolutely.
is why I
Absolutely.
say ethnicities which come under a false doctrine like Islam, so Arabs maybe, uh, Turks, all these different groups, when they come under that, they start propagating or promulgating this false doctrine, this brainwashing, these horrible things that come from a religion that is deeply, deeply evil and demonic. And so they're all brainwashed with it from a very early age. You know, from the moment they're born, the Quran is being chanted over them.
Yeah,
And so they end up being these tools for the devil.
yeah,
And so we need to be cleansed from that. We need to bring civilization back to the world.
yeah.
Western civilization was great over the last 2,000 years because it was permeated with the gospel of Jesus Christ. If you took Christ out of civilization, you wouldn't have the architecture that we have all throughout Western Europe, right?
Totally,
You wouldn't
totally.
have all the beautiful frescoes and paintings and science that came out of a love to glorify God. All of that came out of wanting to glorify God and to use the gifts, the talents, the skills, and abilities which God had gifted you to glorify Him. And so without that, you don't have Western
No,
civilization.
no, it's a very important part of civilization, Christianity. It's one of the most important parts. This love your enemy, this philosophy of loving your enemy, whoever it is. That's such an important part. Then you look at Muslims. What do Muslims say? Hate your enemy.
Kill
Try
your
to
enemy.
kill your enemy. Try every day to turn your enemy into a Muslim. What
Hmm.
happens, do you think, when the person who says love your enemy comes with the person who says hate your enemy and try to turn him into what you are? The barbarian is going to win in a second. That's what happened in the Middle East. That's what happened in Roman Empire. Constantinople turned into Istanbul. And if you people in the West don't wake up, the Muslims going to do the same to you. And don't be
We
fooled by the fact that they didn't do it yet. They're already weakening it. It's right happening right now. You are being weakened as we speak. Like
well,
it's
what happened when Islam invaded Western Europe? And they did it again. They did it
yeah,
again, and they
yeah.
did it through these idiots who said, "Oh, we got to open up our borders for all these 20 to 28-year-old Islamic males.
Hmm.
We got to open up Germany to Muslims. We got to open up England to." I went to London last year and I said, "This looks like Baghdad." I mean, this is
Yeah.
all the women in the hijabs, right? Like it was just crazy. Unbelievable. Where they had the fully veiled face. What do you call that when they wear the full,
Burqa,
the burqa?
ninja. We call them ninjas.
Ninjas wearing the
Female
burqas.
ninjas.
You can't even tell who's under that.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no way to identify who they are, and
I mean,
you can't raise the St. George flag anymore. You can't raise the Christian flag of England anymore. It's illegal in London.
it's
You're not allowed
ridiculous.
to.
It's
So
ridiculous.
so what we need is another crusade. We need to expel all Muslims from Europe. Send them back to where they came
Bro,
from.
I've been asking for a crusade since weeks, but the way I want to do it is bringing Christianity to these Muslims.
Yeah, we
Like
have to do that. But
that's
we
how
can
I
do
want to do
that.
it.
Listen, this is Jesus commanded his disciples, "Go ye into all the nations and Christianize them. Bring them and make them disciples of me." That's what
Mhm.
Jesus commanded us to do. He commands the Christians to go into the other nations, not the other nations to come to Christian ones. That's the
Mm,
difference.
mm.
So we can send them back to the countries where they come from and send missionaries to their countries like we did, like the Catholics did,
Yeah,
like the Protestants did for
exactly.
centuries. We can send our people to their countries to Christianize their lands,
Exactly.
to make their countries democracies. But we
Exactly.
don't need these ideologies and these terrorists coming into our home, coming into our lands to say, "Hey, I believe we need to Christianize them." You and I are agreed. But how we go about doing that is different because I'm not, for example, going to say to terrorists, "Welcome into my home. Come to my table, sit down and have dinner with me while I talk to you about Jesus." No.
Yeah, yeah.
But I don't mind going into their country, into their land, and telling them about Jesus. This is my home.
100%. 100%. Instead of just welcoming millions of people, why don't we teach them how to become civilized? Like instead of them coming to civilization, let's make their countries. It was a civilization anyway. It was Christianity. It was
Yeah.
the Roman Empire. Just make that again. Make democracy again. About your point about ethnicities being evil, I need to touch in on that. You are right about culture. You're right about very very strong ideas. These are like Islam. This is the book of the devil. This is super strong. This is a
Mm-hmm.
strong mindset, and you can't change that. You can't civilize. You can't. I believe in barbarians. I wouldn't say evil ethnicities. I believe in barbarians,
Mm-hmm.
and you can change that barbaric mind with Christianity,
Mm-hmm.
democracy. You don't even have to say Christianity, by the way, because that's like a little hostile.
Mm-hmm.
Just say freedom, democracy. When you introduce democracy to the Muslim, Islam ends in 1 second. It's done because
Mm-hmm.
Islam can't survive in a democracy because democracy means speaking without being afraid. When you speak without being afraid, you will realize You come from Christian slaves. It was all Christian lands, Anatolia, Syria, North Africa. Just Arabia became Muslim, and then they colonized everybody.
Right.
So when you speak about slavery in Islam, when you speak about us white slaves in Turkey, freedom of speech, freedom, democracy, as soon as you bring this democracy to the Muslim, Islam is done, it's finished. I'm the first person saying this. I'm the first person in a Muslim country speaking without being afraid. I'm the first democratic white Muslim person from a Muslim community speaking without being afraid about white slavery, Christian slavery. Islam is done in a minute when you show a movie, a proper movie about what Islam did to Christians. It's done. So we don't even need to fight them. We don't need a crusade in the sense that we need to fight them, kill them or something. We don't need that. We just need people like me in Muslim communities, give support to people like me in Muslim communities, and we'll tell our people in our native language. You need the native language. You need to speak their language, And we're going to tell them we come from Christian slaves, bro. We don't look like fucking Arabs. We don't look like fucking Turks, Mongols.
Yeah, but you can't say the same thing to Arabs. You can't say the same thing to Arabs because they have been Muslims since Islam began. Before that, they were Christians, for 400 years.
Believe me, Arabs are going to turn away from Islam. Even if they don't become Christians immediately, they're going to turn away from Islam. If you great people in America, if you make these amazing Hollywood movies, just give me three Hollywood movies, 3 Oscars, Islam is going to be finished. Make Christopher Nolan makes an Islam movie. Spielberg makes an Islam movie. Bro, Islam is going to be finished. One sitting in the cinema, you see Islam, what Islam is. People are going to puke. They're going to be disgusted by Islam when they see how they turn Christians. They raped them like they raped us.
Right.
That's how they made us hate Christianity. That's how they made my ancestors hate being Italian. They raped them when they were like children, teenagers. That's how they made us. That's why we are disgusted when we see the cross. No other religion symbol, show us Judaism, whatever, Hinduism, I don't care. When you show me a cross, it's like I get a little a certain impulse. Like, because we were made to hate being disgusted by Christianity. Zombie movies, vampire movies. Oh, I don't know if you know this. Zombie movies, vampire movies, exorcism movies. It's us. Because we have got the devil in us. We were told that it's disgusting to be a Christian. We were raped for being Christians. So we were told that it's disgusting to be a Christian, hate Christianity, you're a Muslim now. And now we feel clean when we're a Muslim. So when you show us this cross, it's like, ooh, what is this? Zombie movies, exorcism movies inspired by white slavery.
Yeah. When I speak about, just to touch back on this subject of evil ethnicities, you look at ethnicity like a family. So in America, we have this famous feud, the Hatfields versus the McCoys. Okay, this happens.
What is that?
The Hatfields versus the McCoys. They're two families.
Okay.
They're two families that hate each other, and generation after generation, they're still fighting each other. They're still hating each other. It's real. It's real. I mean, they kill each other, and they steal from each other. It's terrible. And it's because they have this generational animosity towards one another. And so when the Spaniards came to evangelize in Central America, in South America, they came across the Mayans, the Incas, the Aztecs, these ethnicities, these ethnic groups. And remember, let's look at an ethnicity like a family. These are families that have not been penetrated with the gospel. And until they are penetrated with the gospel, they are evil. And this is why they perform child sacrifice upon altars. This is why they were killing people in the thousands to sacrifice them to their gods. Evil, human sacrificing, cannibalistic ethnicities and communities and tribes. You look at an ethnicity as a community, that's a false mentality. You cannot look at an ethnicity as a community. An ethnicity is a tribe. It is a family of people. Okay? That's what an ethnicity is. So ethnicities that have yet to be permeated with the gospel are still evil ethnicities. And any group any family or culture that hasn't been permeated with the gospel, they are still evil. 100%, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father but through him. When we become a Christian, Jesus Christ renews our mind, changes our hearts, and makes us to love people like nobody else, to take care of people like nobody else, to risk our lives to tell people the truth, to save them. That's what Christ has done for me. This is why I love all these people. All these people that I believe are inherently evil, completely depraved, separated from God. Their minds are debased. Okay, they need to be set free, and the only way to set them free is through the gospel. But in order to understand the gospel fully, is that all men have fallen short of the glory, that no man is righteous, no, not one, until Jesus Christ comes to set you free. When Jesus Christ comes to set you free, when you're baptized and you receive Jesus Christ, he gives you a new heart, a new mind, and you start doing good. You know, when I became a Christian, my IQ became bigger. I wasn't born a Christian. I was born in a Catholic family that was really into a lot of religion, but they didn't know the Lord. They didn't know Jesus. And there's a difference between religion and actually knowing God and walking with him in the true Christian way. It's called real faith, believing in the God who created the heavens and the universe, that he can move mountains for you, that he can change people's lives and save them from darkness. That's what real saving faith is. So, anyway, when I became a Christian, my IQ grew. My intelligence grew. My creative abilities grew. It was like I became a different person completely, not just spiritually, but I had new gifts and talents that I didn't have before. My mind was expanded. I could retain more information than I ever did before. I could read a book and suddenly I was retaining what I read versus before. If I was reading a textbook and I was trying to study for a class, I couldn't retain anything. So the power of the gospel is amazing. The power of Jesus Christ isn't just from death to life, life unto salvation. The power and the message of the Christ is Christ transforms you from the inside out, and that has to happen for everybody. We are commanded. If you're to say I am a Christian, you have to believe that the whole world is in darkness. You cannot be a Christian until you believe the whole world is in darkness and that Jesus Christ is the light. You cannot be a Christian unless you submit to the mandate that Jesus Christ has called all of us to go into all the nations to preach the gospel. And whether you're doing it from your phone, whether you're taking a trip there, it doesn't matter. But we all have to participate in this kingdom advancement. What is the mission? What is the mandate? What is the motive? Those are the things that we have to wrap our minds around.
I'm going to agree with you there. The current way the world thinks is that you need to leave certain tribes alone. And if you get in there and civilize them or Christianize them, you have committed the greatest crimes in the world. Guess what? Civilization has every right to spread. Barbarians need to hear the word of civilization. And so part of civilization is Christianity. So the world is wrong when they think that all cultures in the world would become good people, would become civilization. If you just leave them by themselves, alone, they will become, all nations cannot become civilized. Muslims will never become civilized by themselves.
The Romans weren't even civilized till Christianity permeated Rome.
Would you say that? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. Because Nero was lighting Christians on fire on stakes.
At the beginning, it's normal.
Yeah, on stakes, and then feeding them to lions and to wild beasts in a circus for people to watch. So before Christianity came on the scene and permeated the Roman Empire was a barbarian empire. The Greek Empire was a barbarian empire.
I wouldn't say that.
100%. Well, they were civilized, more civilized than most.
They were on the way to become even greater civilization.
They were a civilization, right? They were a civilization, but they were not Western civilization as we know it today.
They are on their way, but they're on the right track.
But how did they get there?
On the right track.
But how did they get there? They did it through Jesus Christ being God, through submission to the gospel. That's how it happened. When Constantine said, hey, we're going to be a Christian empire, it shifted everything. It shifted everything. And so we need to not give up. We have to remember what happened to those early Christians. They were persecuted, they were tortured, they were martyred. But at the end of the day, they kept having children, they kept believing, and they won out. And I tell people all the time, if you're afraid of the Jews, if you're afraid of the Muslims, if you're afraid of atheists or communists, the best thing that you can do is outbreed them and outconvert them. And and I say I'm exhibit A of doing that
Yeah,
successfully. You know, I have
yeah.
six
You had a lot of
kids.
kids, 6 kids. Yeah.
I'm only 28 years old and we're going into the world preaching the gospel. So, you know, I look at guys like you, I look at guys who have passion, vision, and I say, come on, let's work together. Let's do something to shift the
Here,
tide.
here's what you need to understand. You're 100% right about Christianity making civilization even greater. You're right. And what I need to say to the people watching is that you can't leave barbarians by themselves. Like in America, in Mexico, or whatever, all people, all barbarians need civilization. They need to hear Christianity, even if they don't become Christians immediately. They need to
Mhm.
hear what civilization has to say. Look, the rules of this world are made by barbarians. The rule of war is made by barbarians. I've shown the map tons of times on my TikTok. Check it out, Han5 Rio. If barbarians are spreading, if barbarians are spreading Islam to all of Middle East, if barbarians are spreading the Arabic language and Islam to half of North Africa, East Africa, almost half of Africa speaks Arabic and is Muslim.
Mhm.
If Turks are colonizing all of Asia, Turks are Mongols. If Mongols, Genghis Khan, is colonizing all of fucking Asia, guess what? Civilization has every right to do the same thing. If barbarians start colonizing and enslaving white people, guess what? White people have a right to do the free white people have a right to do the same thing. They also have a right to spread. If civilization doesn't do that, barbarians are going to take the upper hand. Then it's going to be Muslims everywhere. Then it's going to be Turks everywhere. So civilization has the right, not only the right, civilization, Christians have the duty, they have the responsibility to spread. Otherwise, barbarians win. Otherwise, Muslims win. Obviously, civilization has to spread.
Mhm.
Good people need to spread. Otherwise, evil people who lie about their history, barbarians lie about their history, and they say they were the greatest people, and white people were the white monsters, racist colonizers, and they never colonized, never enslaved. This is how barbarians rule. I don't know if you have more time. I want to say some important words about civilization and barbarians.
Well, I will say this. I will say,
Yeah.
RüsteM, we should do a second episode
Okay.
on this. But the last question before we close here that I have for you is where can people find your book on the Janissary slaves?
It's on Amazon. Just Google my name. It's on the screen. Uh, just Amazon my name. Search it on Amazon my name. You'll find it. And actually, I'm also giving it for free right now because it's not selling that much. I don't. I didn't publish it properly. I self-published it. If you self-publish, it doesn't sell that much. So I don't even care. You can get it for free on my TikTok, on my Instagram. There's a link. I don't know if you can see my name. I can't see my name right now, but if you check my TikTok, is it on the screen?
Um,
I can't see it right now. I don't
yes, it
know.
is.
Han5 Rio, or just TikTok it, Instagram it. The first link, you're gonna see the first link. Both my books are free. First person, first person giving you the most important truth of this history of this world, white slavery, the war between civilized people against barbarians, which are Muslims. And we white people live in Turkey as barbarians right now. And you need to know that so you can start supporting civilization and stop supporting most evil leaders like Muslim Hamas leaders.
Hmm.
You can't do
Hmm.
that.
So they can buy your book on Amazon, though.
You can buy it on Amazon, and just the first book you can buy it on Amazon, and the second book is free on my TikTok. Just click on the first link. That's where my second book is.
Okay, wonderful. And definitely, guys, check out his book on Amazon. Definitely support him and his work. It's very, very important. He's the only guy I see in this space talking about what he's talking about. We should definitely get behind him 100%. I know a lot of you guys who watch, you guys have TV channels or you have radio stations or you guys have social media channels. Definitely share this out. If you have a TV channel or a radio station, definitely invite my friend to come on your broadcast and speak to your viewers as well. And then the last but not least, we are a Christian ministry serving the widows and the fatherless, those who have suffered under Christian martyrdom by Islamic radicals all around the world. We are working in the Middle East. We are working in Nigeria, Africa. We are working in the South Caucasus. We're doing great things for many people, but our ministry is sustained by your guys' donations. So we do crowdfunding. We have a couple churches that support us, but I ask you to like and follow, share, and definitely support. There's a couple different links that you can give: PayPal, Cash App, Venmo, to support our mission to continue to do what we do. By you supporting this ministry, it helps me to bring wonderful guests on, like my brother RüsteM here, who's doing amazing things. He's helping bring this knowledge to light and to wake the Turkish people up to the atrocities that were committed against them by a tribe not even their own, how they have been enslaved, and they were a conquered white Christian people and heritage, and bringing democracy and values that we love and revere here in the West to places like Turkey. So thank you very much, Ilhan. God
Thank
bless you,
you.
my brother, and thank
Bless
you
you
for
too.
coming on.
Thank you, Joe. See you later.